This story is brought to you by the month of Lurve.
The month of Lurve.
Chapter 2. Things are changing. The night started off boring for Rainbow Dash, just as she expected. For the other ponies, however, it was an outstanding night. They started by just sitting around and talking. Of course, that meant just Twilight and Applejack talking, while Rainbow just sat around and skulked. After a while, Twilight decided to be a little sympathetic towards her. "I think I've got something that we can all do that you might enjoy too, Rainbow. Close your eyes, girls." Both ponies did as they were told, and felt Twilight's magical aura around them. It took a couple minutes to stop, but it eventually did. "Open your eyes now." Rainbow noticed that the voice didn't seem to be coming from another source, but in her head. She could hear Twilight in her mind instead of through her ears. She didn't pay too much attention to it, however, because as she opened her eyes, her jaw dropped. She was in a whole new world, it seemed. The library was gone, and in front of her was something. She couldn't explain it if she tried. Twilight's voice came through her head. "It's called a race car. Basically, the circular thing in front of you is a steering wheel. Turning it counterclockwise will cause you to go left. Clockwise makes you go right. There are two pedals by your hooves. The one on the right will make you speed up, and the left will make you slow down. The path in front of you, girls, is a road. Just follow it." "How in tarnation did we get here?" So it wasn't only Rainbow who was completely at a loss as to what was going on. "This is a video game. It's basically a way to put yourself into another pony's point of view, and do things you couldn't do in real life. This is a racing game. The idea behind it is that for any pony that's not a Pegasus, you can still race at speeds that would be ridiculous without any extra help. It's a competition. I know both of you girls like competitions. That's why I chose this one. The video game is actually something I came up with on my own. I wanted to actually see things in another point of view. With Celestia's help, we..." Yeah, that's impressive, Twi. But if this is a competition, then I'm going to win. What's the point of this game, anyway?" Rainbow was eager to get started so that she could win. "Inconsiderate as usual," Twilight muttered. "The point is to just follow the track. It's pretty simple." Rainbow looked around the race car that seemed to be a lot more than just the wheel and the pedals, but she had never seen anything of this sort. It seemed to be simple enough, though. All she needed to do was to steer and be able to go, right? Who even needs the pedal on the left? You can't win a race if you slow down. Her attention went to the steering wheel. It took a bit of ingenuity, but she realized she could put a hoof in between the holes in the wheel and steer. "Is every pony ready?" "You're darn tootin'." After looking around a little more, she could see Twilight and her race car through the window on her left, and likewise with Applejack on her right. Looking forward, she could see a red light above her. She leaned forward and grinned. "Let's do this." "All right, girls. When the light turns green, that's when you go. And please don't hit any pony, either of you two. Good luck, girls." "You're gonna need it, Rainbow." To her right, Applejack winked at her and tipped her Phxntxm before concentrating on the light in front of her. Rainbow did the same, and placed a hind hoof on the pedal to her right. Racing was what she could do, and she was the fastest flyer in all of Equestria. That had to be an advantage somehow. There was no way she was going to lose. She focused intently on the light in front of her, and breathed a deep breath. Everything went quiet, and she knew it was about to start. Adrenaline rushed through her, and she could feel her heartbeat. The wait for the start of the race was always such an intense feeling. As soon as that light turned green, she slammed her hoof down on the pedal, and she was likewise slammed into the seat she was sitting in. The car couldn't go as fast as she could, of course, but it was a different type of feeling than flying was. Not as good a feeling, but still excellent. As they pulled into the first turn, she noticed both Applejack and Twilight pull to the inside of the turn and pull ahead of her. She followed suit and pulled closer to the inside of the curve. Twilight pulled way ahead of the other two, completely surprising both of the other two ponies. "How are you winning, Twi?" Rainbow's eyes had gone completely wide in surprise. "Was that supposed to not be offensive, Rainbow? I've had a lot of practice. When you take a turn as tight as you can, it cuts the distance you have to travel down substantially." Now Rainbow was in last. This did not sit well with her, and she smugly told herself that she could easily catch up. She was Rainbow Dash, after all. "We're going to do 50 laps. The green light will turn yellow as you finish your 49th lap, telling you that you have one left to catch up, or keep your lead, or whatever else. It will turn red as you cross after that." As she finished saying this, they were already finishing the second turn, and Rainbow could see the light ahead of her. She panicked as she realized that the laps went by a lot faster than she thought it would. She pushed the pedal even further down now, but she knew she had to keep control so she didn't crash. She'd already done enough of that while flying, so she couldn't press it too far. The first turn had done its damage, and Rainbow was behind by quite a bit. All she could do was try to race as best as she could, even though a race car was a lot harder to control than herself. She took each turn as precisely as she possibly could, cutting on the inside turns, inching away from the grass in the middle that she could tell you weren't allowed to touch. Then sliding outside when she wasn't on a turn, accelerating as much as she could before slowing down a little to hit the turns lightly again. It was repetitive and exhilarating at the same time, a feeling she was used to already, having been in many races before. After about the 10th lap, she was finally able to get on the inside of Applejack before they hit their turn, cutting her off from where she would like to have been, and overtaking her. "Now I'm coming after you, Twi." She smirked and knew she had this. Twilight might have had practice at this game, but Rainbow had done a lot more than she had. After a couple more laps, she was directly on Twilight's tail. The race was hers. A smile crept its way onto her lips. She passed Twilight at the back half of the 37th lap, and won just like she knew she would. The odd cringe had completely left her mind, and she waited for the race to be over so she could rub her win in her friends' faces. The world paused for a second and went black, and in another second they were back in the library. The flash of the images made Rainbow dizzy, and she lay down. She saw the other ponies doing the same as her. Twilight and Applejack were laughing and talking about the race. "I'm surprised you did so well, Twilight. No offense or nothing, but being a bookworm and all doesn't really seem like you would know how to race." "It's fine, Applejack. I normally wouldn't be good at something like that, and I know it. But like I said, I've had a lot of practice on the game. The project that allowed this game to exist is quite astounding, though. Celestia and I made a virtual world with multiple zones allowing us to—" She stopped as she saw the blank stares coming from her friends, and she laughed. "Never mind. It is intriguing, though, trust me." All three of the ponies were exhausted after the race. Even though they just pressed pedals and turned a wheel, it still managed to take a lot out of them. They sat around and talked for a while again, and with Rainbow in a much better mood after the race, it was a lot more light-hearted, and she was actually included. After an hour or so, the topic got to what any group of fillies would end up talking about: colts. Or it was for Twilight. Much to Rainbow's surprise, however, she found out Applejack was into fillies. "You're gay?" Rainbow's jaw dropped. "Rainbow, first of all, saying it like that can offend some ponies. And second, of course she is. Every pony else knows that. How do you not? She never tried to keep it a secret." Applejack shook her head and smiled. "You never spend time with any of us, Rainbow. You're always either practicing your tricks or working on the weather. If you're ever with us for a little bit, you end up getting bored and leaving. That's probably why you didn't know." "I guess. Sorry if I insulted you. I was just a little surprised is all." "Oh, that's fine, Sugar Cube. If I didn't know any better, I could have seen that outburst as excitement," Applejack said slyly, with a wink and a chuckle. Rainbow looked genuinely disgusted. "What? Ew, no!" The hurt was evident on Applejack's face, and it took a moment for Rainbow to realize what she had just said, and she cringed. "Shit! AJ, that's not what I meant, I swear. I'm taken aback by all this. I've never met someone that's into fillies before. It's not something I put much thought into. You're still my best friend. I'm the element of loyalty, AJ. I promise that won't ever happen again." She looked at Applejack despairingly, hoping to see forgiveness in her friend. Twilight looked sympathetically at Rainbow. She knew that Rainbow didn't mean what she said. "Applejack, she's telling the truth. I know she is." Applejack just lay her head on her hooves and looked at Rainbow sadly. "I know she didn't mean it. That don't mean it didn't hurt." Rainbow looked even more sad than Applejack did. "AJ, I'm sorry. Oh, I've just ruined the night. I'm sorry, Twilight." She looked to her lavender friend, nearly crying. "I'm sorry. I think I'll just go home now before I make things worse." She floated slowly to the door and left quietly. She started to fly home as she realized what a fool she just made of herself. "I can't believe I just did that. What the hey is wrong with me? I don't have a problem with some pony who's into fillies. Why did I freak out like that?" She stopped abruptly in midair. Where the hay did my home go? The cloud her home used to be on was no longer there. There was just air. She heard a cough behind her and she whirled around. Derpy! What happened to my home? I broke the cloud it was on. Rainbow felt more anger than she had ever felt before bubble in her very core, and she started to shake uncontrollably. You did what? I didn't mean to, I swear. I was just going after this cloud here. I kind of missed. I'm sorry. So what exactly happened to my home then? She knew the answer, obviously, but she just couldn't believe it. This couldn't be happening. There was no way, on top of ruining her friend's night, this happened to her. Derpy pointed down. Rainbow followed to where she pointed and saw the ground. Nothing special about it. It broke on the ground and it disappeared. Clouds are really sensitive, Rainbow Dash. All the anger Rainbow had previously felt left. She felt like her whole body had just deflated and all feeling left her. She went completely numb as the realization hit her. Her whole life had just changed in an instant. She was homeless. To be continued.